What's up, guys? Today I'm going to carve this pot because I threw it entirely too thick. It's bottom heavy, the walls are thick, and I didn't want to trim a lot off of it because it's very gritty and it kind of just crumbles and it doesn't really go the way you want it to. Here's the bottom as I was trying to trim this, and just so much grit in here that I won't really be able to do that. But what I want to do is carve like a mountain scene in here and kind of go over that process. So if you want to make a realistic looking landscape on your pot, you need to understand some basics of perception and how you perceive things far away and how you perceive them close. So closer to the horizon, you'll have to figure out where you want your horizon to be. Everything, all of your lines become more horizontal. And the further and closer you get to the foreground, you're going to have more vertical lines. So in the foreground here, I'm going to have some very upright, thick, dense mountain ranges. And then as I get further and further away, I'll have smaller and smaller mountain ranges that almost become a horizontal line. All right, now you can see that the foreground here has a lot of vertical lines. The lines are deeper, and the mountains in the back have less and less vertical lines and get closer to horizontal lines. The further these mountains go back, the more horizontal lines there should be. There's still going to be some bumps, but they're not going to be as sharp and as detailed as the ones in the foreground. The ones in the foreground should be your main mountains, and those are the ones that you're going to put a lot of detail into. The ones in the back that have less pressure on them, less vertical lines, those are going to be further away. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try and make a dark side of the mountain and go ahead and choose how I want to shade this, and then I'll show you that process. All right, so what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to get a dark side and a light side. And here I put a sponge to kind of give it more of a matte look. And then on here, I'm digging in a little bit deeper, and I really want to dig in onto this outline here to let people know this is where the shadow of the mountain is at. Do not be afraid to just dig in to all those lines that you just made and open them up and bring them down. The further you get down here, that's the closer to the foreground. The higher at the mountain, the further away it is. Just imagine if you were standing in front of a mountain, you'd be closer to the base than you would to the tip. So at the base, it needs to be deeper, which will give it the look of being darker. And if you can get more detail in there, maybe even cut in different layers into this part here. But to make this the dark side of the mountain, it needs to be the deep cut inside of the mountain. To clean this, all you do is get a fan brush and just get in between all these lines. Now remember, ones in the foreground, they're going to have more detail. The ones in the back have less detail. Less and less detail. Alright, so as you can see, I have a deep side of the mountain. In between these mountains, I have other mountains, but they're further back. And in between these mountains, I also have clouds. Just to give it a little bit more depth. I don't know if you guys can really see that, but I just made little swirls. Those are little, I guess, cumulus nimbus clouds forming. And then I'll probably make some up top here too. And the ones up top, just imagine looking straight up. If you look straight up, say you're standing at the base of a mountain or a mountain range, and you look out over the mountain range, you would see something like this, where you have your closest mountains, most detail, darker, more vertical lines. You look further out, the mountains get a little bit more horizontal, less detail. Maybe you see some clouds in between. But if you look straight up, you would also see some very big clouds, bigger clouds. So the clouds that are going to be up top here, they should be, you know, maybe at the peaks of these mountains like the rest of them, but the swirls should be bigger and they should be deeper because it's closer to you. So you're going to want to get that sense of depth. This is just me trying to use some of my painting experience to try and make a landscape on this pottery. I've only done this a few times, so I'm just experimenting around and trying to see what works. But I'll do that. I'm just going to use the same tool, and I'll use this tip, and I'll just push down as hard as I can and make swirls, big swirls all around the top here. Kind of try and make it in a cloud form. Or I might actually use one of my stones, because this looks like it's going to scrape. And I don't really want it to scrape, I just want it to compress. Alright, so I ended up pushing into it with a burnishing stone. And really, I want to push on the back here, because this is where the shade is, just like this is where the shade for the mountain is. I want to make this area a little bit deeper. I don't know if you guys can see it, but try and make these plumes at the back here deeper in some of these edges to give it the appearance that light is hitting from this side, and then as the light starts to dissipate, it gets darker at the back. And I've tried doing that with all of these here, and yeah, we'll see how it looks after it dries, and then I'll probably try and apply some Terra Sig. But yeah, hope you guys got some value out of this, maybe got some ideas. Appreciate you guys watching. Hit over 1,000 subscribers, which is awesome, and hopefully I can start making a lot more of these videos for you guys as I begin to monetize. So once again, thank you guys for watching, and let me know in the comments below what you'd like to see next.